A to Sim are the main ones of the powerful rank, but this morning isn't particularly cheerful. The thing is, what happened in Vyshneve happened again. A suburb of Kyiv was almost destroyed because Ukroboronprom stored shells there, which exploded when either a drone or a Russian missile hit the place. Overall, it doesn't matter, but the damage was enormous. So this all happened again, and now an entire block has been destroyed in another city, this time in Khmelnytskyi. Residential buildings were damaged, and this time something detonated at the training ground, which again is located almost within the city limits for some unclear reason. This is what it looked like. We're being told that this was an explosion followed by a detonation at one of the military bases. But listen, explosions like this, with a detonation like that, and more than one wave of detonation, well, that's nonsense. So, something else is assumed to have happened there. Anyway, more on that later. Let's see what happened first. They commented here and said that an emergency occurred, which resulted in an explosion followed by a detonation. A headquarters was set up, Trata, the patrol police forces, and yes, they started notifying and evacuating. There is already information about damage to residential buildings. But again, what is it really? At first, they even started saying that it was almost a planned detonation of old shells. Old shells can't explode with such force in subsequent waves of detonation, so most likely these were air-launched missiles, and honestly, no way. Not old, but most likely new ones. Why they exploded is still unclear. But the fact is, this happened. And this is a repeat again of what happened in Vyshneve. Here they're telling us about what, why, and how all this is exploding. The thing is, detonation can last for hours, especially if, as they say, a rocket depot is exploding. The temperature inside reaches hundreds of degrees. Ammunition, which isn't designed at all for any external impact, doesn't go off all at once but in waves, and each new detonation throws more and more fragments into the air. It creates new fires, not to mention that some munitions are thrown into the air and detonate, so to speak, in mid-air, at different altitudes, and some of them fly very far, hitting everything in their path. Vehicles, people, roads, buildings, structures, and much more. And again, here we are not told that this explosion was the result of a deliberate action. But how and why did all this explode? Currently, it's still unclear, but we're waiting for the investigation. It's the same with Vyshnevaya, where the investigation is thorough. And, as it turned out, a significant amount of ammunition was stored in facilities that absolutely did not meet safety requirements. And let me remind you, all of this exploded in that very Vyshnevoi, just like that, with such a roar. I mean, well, it looks like some kind of apocalypse. I'm free.
7 people died, another 29 were injured. The investigation established that after the missile strike, the weapons in the warehouse detonated again. The warehouse was not intended for their storage. There shouldn't have been any ammunition there at all. The enterprise's general director and deputy have been notified that they are suspected of official negligence.
Well, you can imagine, I mean, everything nearby was completely razed to the ground. And, as far as we can tell, it's about the same in Khmelnytskyi, and I think we'll all be informed about this a bit later today. And within a few days, it will become clear what happened. As for Vyshneve, a significant amount of ammunition was stored in facilities that absolutely did not meet safety requirements and did not have the necessary permits. How and who allowed this to happen? But obviously the managers who are now sitting in the detention center are waiting, well, not just idly waiting around, but for their fate. What will be done with them is still unclear. I will keep you updated, so subscribe to the channel. You can do this by simply pointing your phone or smartphone camera at this QR code and you'll go straight where you need to. Or, if you're watching me from a mobile device, there's a link to that very Telegram channel right here at the bottom, and you can go straight there, you'll get there too. Plus, you know, there's a saying, unfortunately I use it quite often these days. Trouble never comes alone. It always brings its children along. In Ukrainian it goes, trouble never comes alone. It always brings its children along. Well, basically, it's similar. In short, Kyiv was bombed, and there's terrible destruction there. The shopping center was destroyed too, and people died. And those who didn't make it to the shelter, unfortunately, are lying right on the road. I won't show these horrors. Actually, in general, I didn't even post it on my Telegram channel because people are already suffering enough, but there is footage of the explosion itself. This is what's happening on the streets of an ordinary city. Right now it's Kyiv. Here is the video. I mean, this already looks like scenes from that very movie where robots rise from the ashes of nuclear fire. Terminator, I mean. The second one. Again, there's nothing good about this, and no one is building bomb shelters yet. That's just how it is. There are no bomb shelters. There are those villas, the fortifications of powerful leaders, but there are no real fortifications. People are dying, you could say, for metal, and that very metal is killing them. Well, that's just the first part. The second part. Yes, again, it's a nightmare and a horror, and we'll have to deal with the consequences of this for a long time. For many years. There's an even more significant consequence. It's what's happening with the negotiations now. I recently read to you, I quoted some tabloid that was saying Trump has finally made Zelensky his guy, his favorite. They say he loves winners. And since he's a victorious leader who has beaten everyone in this world, in this known universe, and maybe even in a parallel one, now he's Trump's favorite. And this very favorite, riding the wave of, let's say, popularity, well, in his own mind, asked Trump for 300 Patriots. These are air defense systems, and the missiles for them, for these very launchers, are extremely expensive. He also asked for additional Patriots, and even a license to produce them. Moreover, Ukrainian media immediately announced that everything is fine, everything is taken care of, everything is ready to go. And the swan, the crayfish, and the pike teamed up with the doe, and are already transporting all these shells to Ukraine. But then suddenly Trump stood before the bright eyes of the viewers, in front of the camera lights, and said, no, there will be nothing. First, he stated that both Zelensky and Putin, in fact, will have to make concessions to end the war. And you see, he doesn't just mention Putin, he also mentions Zelensky. And he stated that Washington, at the same time, is not going to transfer technology to produce Patriot missiles and Patriot systems to Ukraine. He said such weapons could eventually be used against the United States. Trump said that he discussed all sorts of things with Zelensky, including ending the war. He mentioned the losses, but we won't discuss that here. The only thing I want to say is that Zelensky stated that 50,000 people have died recently, or rather in total, and the most interesting thing is that 6 months ago he said 55,000 had died. So, apparently, 5,000. Sorry for the dark humor, I understand it's not very appropriate, but still, did they come back to life, or what is actually happening? Well, they could have said, well, a little more, but I don't know how they can feed us this kind of nonsense and hope that we'll believe it all. If before there were still some people who believed, now there are still some people like that. He walks around Kyiv with those same cardboard signs, and they say, Rusaris, Rusaris, that's Stornenko. There's such a character, he collects billions in funds, drives an armored car with security, and collects quite a bit of money to launch drones. The drones are flying, people are walking around, Stornenko organizes these kinds of strikes and demonstrations. It's all because of that very Fedorov who was removed from the position of Minister of Defense. So, Trump said that he wants to make a deal, Putin wants to make a deal, but there's a lot of mutual dislike, as you probably noticed. Well, yes, you did notice. And nobody wants to make concessions, but both will have to make certain concessions and strike a deal. And on top of that, he said he would like to see more action from Zelensky before making a decision on the PTP. Well, in short, it just turned into a discussion in these talks. Nevertheless, Trump stated that he did not agree and did not provide any technologies. America is discussing this, but as he says, it's hard to give away such technology. I don't think this will ever happen. So, you see, in the answer itself, you can already see how things may develop, meaning you can ask about it, but he doesn't think that something like this will happen in the future. And that's all because he's afraid that the technology will be copied and used against the United States. Well, knowing how all those Pritulas and others raise funds for something and then somehow use them naturally for the good of the state, maybe that's the case here too. So, well, just imagine all these blueprints, all this technology, specialists will come to Ukraine, or on the contrary, Ukrainians will go to study, and then copies of all this will end up somewhere else. I mean, can you imagine how much money that is, considering that one Patriot system, as far as I remember, costs $1 billion, definitely not hryvnias or rubles. And the ammunition is also extremely expensive. In short, things are getting serious. Then, it was reported that Vance suddenly, Trump's closest aide, who at one time was called his successor, although now it seems that's no longer the case. Not anymore. In short, he called Zelensky right away, and they immediately announced that this is a positive signal for Ukraine, a victory. Serious Zelensky is sitting there, apparently looking into the bright future of the country, and he stated that he discussed the results of our recent meeting with President Trump in Washington, which was positive and productive. That raises the question, did Vance himself really not come to his boss's office, which is located not far from his own office, and ask, "Listen, Mr. Trump, what kind of conversation did you have with Zelensky?" Well, it's just a useless expenditure of, I don't know, bits and bytes of information that are transmitted during this conversation through communication channels, and plus a little bit of energy as well. Zelensky said Russian airstrikes against our country continue, and air defense, especially Patriot system interceptors against ballistic missiles, remains the top priority. And right after that, Trump immediately responded and emphasized this. That the US possesses the most magnificent weapon, probably the most powerful, as it was translated worldwide, the secret of which must be carefully guarded. According to him, although the American side is still discussing this issue, it is extremely difficult to transfer such technologies to other countries. Well, he gave the example of microchips, which are easily copied by competitors, while stating that this technology cannot be copied. But here too, there is a question if it really can't be copied. There are so many illogical holes in these arguments. And in the interview, sometimes you just wonder, well, who prepared this speech if it's impossible to copy? Well, then give it away. Let them use a copy that again can't be copied. Plus, Zelensky also called Trump. Back in the US, when he was at the funeral of that very Graham, the senator, he asked Trump to influence Musk for strikes against Russia. At a closed meeting with Donald Trump in the White House, he presented a plan that should help Ukraine survive another winter of war. The key condition: Trump would have to ask his ally Elon Musk for a favor, who is still Trump's ally. And the idea is to replace interceptor supplies for Patriot with the expanded use of Starlink. Zelensky asked Trump to get Musk's permission to use the satellite network to direct drone strikes on targets inside Russia. At the same time, again, maybe Musk remembered the news coming from Russia about some weapon that was developed to destroy these very satellites. I don't know how true that is, but technology is advancing and in principle it's possible. And besides, it doesn't have to be something incinerating from Earth. There are already some anti-satellite interceptors. China has demonstrated something like that. In short, I think if there was a really urgent need to do something with those satellites, they would do it. The technology is used for peaceful purposes. It's a way for Musk himself to make money. Starlink, for example, is used as the internet, and they even plan to use it as a communications operator, by the way. And in some American cities, this technology is already working. So, literally, a regular mobile phone, not a satellite phone, receives a satellite signal from satellites. It's possible to do that. The only problem here is money and the implementation of the technology. And in the future, they plan to spread this all over the planet. And then suddenly we're told, why don't we use your technology? Or we'll be flying around bombing, as Zelensky likes to say. Well, Musk, of course, didn't agree. By the way, Musk also refused to meet with Zelensky. There was news about it today. After that, Zelensky ran to Trump and asked, well, do something about this trillionaire. Damn, he's got so much money already, he doesn't want it. And he already has plenty of power, so how do you even approach him? But in the end, they refused this as well. Well, in short, it's some kind of failed policy. Here it seems like nothing but another so-called victory. And here again, it's like this. Even though the land and winter is coming, these very energy facilities, the energy infrastructure for generating power, for providing residents with light, heat, and other comforts. Well, almost nothing has been done. Well, and they aren't installing any new shelters either. There are some showcase ones somewhere, but there are very few of them. And they keep saying, we don't have interceptors, which means we'll be bombed in the winter. Apparently, all of this is preparation for the fact that things will be extremely difficult for people. And when people ask, so what's the problem? They'll say, well, we don't have any money and we don't have any patriots. Actually, there are still plenty of patriots. So, well, we have what we have, like that singer sang in the winter. We don't have any light, but at least it's warm. Well, in general, there was some kind of nonsense going on there, and she was quickly taken off the screen. Well, and apparently to get at least some kind of victory, Zelensky's office asked the Prosecutor General of Ukraine to open a criminal case against Lukashenko. Honestly, I don't even know why this farce is happening or what it's supposed to help with. Are they gonna drive some police van to Minsk to arrest Lukashenko or what? Or how is this even supposed to look in their opinion? Or do they think he'll be arrested in his own country at their request? Or where? With the initiative to open a criminal case against Lukashenko, representatives of the Belarusian opposition, some forum of democratic forces, and some candidates appealed to Zelensky's office. That's all that's missing. Tikhonovskaya and that character who said that Philadelphia teaches English in the US without a second thought. He bought a watch, bought headphones. Everything is just fine for this person. Well, let's go arrest Lukashenko. So, that's how things are. Well, what else do we have? And finally, I remember, or maybe I don't, maybe you didn't watch it. In short, yesterday evening there was a video about 60,000 Moroccans entering Spain, not mainland Spain itself. In the exclave, that's Spanish territory in Africa, it's called Ceuta Emilia. There's one near Gibraltar. Anyway, it looked something like this. And right away, Italy suspended the Schengen agreement with Spain, so that all these valuable specialists, among whom there are quite a few extremely talented scientists, experts in thermonuclear research, genetic modifications, and neurosurgeons, there are many of them. There was even one geologist who tried to test the Earth's axis with his forehead. In short, so that none of them would make their way into Europe. Moreover, according to European laws, one side cannot unilaterally cancel the Schengen agreement. But Meloni said, the Prime Minister of Italy, that everything is fine, we will do as we see fit, and immediately suspended the Schengen agreement with Spain. So it turns out, by land, by water. Well, that's how things are, basically. We're being told that the decision was made based on the latest data, which was analyzed in particular by the Italian Committee on Migration and Border Security. And on Thursday, Madrid deployed its military and police. Immediately, they started saying that Europe cannot be blackmailed, and Merz was already out of the 7th. And everyone else started saying that we need to defend ourselves, we need to do it forcefully. Even though they themselves created the conditions for migration flows to go where they wanted and work as they wanted. And then suddenly this happened. And on top of everything, mighty Latvia closed the border with Belarus. They closed it for technical reasons, but at the same time they say that in the context of Belarus's ongoing hybrid migration war, safe movement between the countries may be difficult. In short, I have a feeling that soon this very Schengen will be done for. At least between some countries. And honestly, things are looking bad for everything. For the Paradise Garden, for the CIS, post-CIS, and really for everyone. We're heading somewhere, dear viewers. And I really don't like where this is going at all. Sometimes you sit and realize what could happen in the future. But what can you do? Well, except maybe move to some place like Easter Island, if they even have a mountain there. Maybe build a small house on the tallest mountain, live there off-grid with solar panels, collect water from the air, and disconnect from the internet. Just to forget, like in a bad dream, this whole madhouse that our world has gradually turned into. And to complete the process, I suggest we take a look, of course, how could we do without them? The mighty leaders without whom nothing happens. They've got a finger in every pie, really. They comment on every issue. And here the most powerful one is about to hit the city. Now, this is a character. This is what we call the golden youth, so to speak. Well, she used to be. She gets along with her parents, and things are going well for her now. But she wants to deliver powerful blows. That kind of thing surprises me. Just look at her. I mean, she's a girl who spends all her time in beauty salons and fitness centers. And that's great. I'm all for it. We should all look as good as we can if we can afford it. But she doesn't just stick to running a fitness blog or talking about nutrition. Or for that matter, she could even talk about the laws of thermodynamics. No, she talks about how we should deliver, powerful blows. She doesn't say with what, though.
She tends to forget a lot. And she forgets not only that men, as those who want to get rid of her, have already done so and are still trying.
Suddenly, out of oblivion, the bird Kwan appears. A bird on the verge of breaking, and we start watching all of this together.
You gave it to Unika. Stop it. Russia can be stronger.
The journalist looks closely and thinks, damn, Where can we get this strength? But Russia gives him a convincing look, hinting that she has the strength.
If we deliver strong blows, even stronger ones destroy their ability. Well, in short,
I just gave it my all, 148%. There's another strong leader. This one doesn't go to fitness centers or beauty salons, although it might seem like maybe he should. The journalist on the left closes her eyes in delight, probably imagining how wonderful that would be. And he's telling us about mobilization.
Mobilization, that's the general situation. Tell me, please, doesn't Putin see this? And he is justifiably confident, which is why he refuses, that he will mobilize another 500,000 while Ukraine, without solving the problems with mobilization. This is the mobilization of the country to repel the enemy. This is not being done. He will push us to the limit. That's what he's hoping for.
understood. There are no decisions yet. Well, we will continue to monitor the situation.
The decisions are with Riva, that's the former and quick, yes, Minister of Social Policy, who once said that pensioners eat too much, that's why they're so poor. To be rich, you apparently need to eat less. If you're homeless, just buy a house. Well, that's how things are here. Such are our leaders. Goodbye, everyone.
Continuation, like a family, like a rock in the regiment, which gives me support. We support each other, we motivate each other.
I believe Ukraine is safe at the moment because we, as they say, are working in all directions. If there is no rock, there will be no defense that exists right now.
Well, when I was abroad, my conscience bothered me that I was sitting safely abroad while someone else was fighting, defending the country. So I made this decision. Plus, I was really inspired by the guys.
Initiation begins now. Vehicle commander, move to the loading corner. Shot on the mark. So are we loading as a keepsake? Tomi? Skrelia.
Svila?